name is Liz Bailey, and I am the most grateful, definite alcoholic you ever could lay your eyes on. I want to take this opportunity to thank the committee, Leonard, Greg, I'm leaving out Bob. Let me just thank all of you for such an honor that you have bestowed upon me this evening. Marion and another lady named Fran has been trying to get me to Hawaii for many years. And I thank Marion, and Fran has passed, I've heard. But I thank all of you for inviting me to this beautiful state of Hawaii. I have been in such awe that you'll never know. I've been crying for 2 days. My cup is just, I'm not right, that's all. It's not right. 40 of my friends from New York came down Wednesday. I'd like you to recognize the 40. Please stand up. They're in the back. One of the guys said to me, I don't know why I came all the way to Hawaii to hear you when I can just walk across the street and hear you. But they love me like I love them, and it's the love that they have shown me that has kept me here and as a happy person. Again, thank you, Hawaii. I have 2 people that you've sent to my life, and it's the hostess with the mostest, and I want her to stand up, and her husband also. My baby there, please stand up, Tony and Curtis. They have taken me over this entire island, mountains and all, and I thank you. I thank each one of you for being here, and especially the committee, because you know it takes over a year's work to put on these conventions. And it's so beautiful, the love that's here in Hawaii. I'm going to go home so full that they're going to have to tell me to shut up. It's been just that wonderful. I know I'm leaving somebody out, but please forgive me if I have, because I've just been a nervous wreck. And I don't usually be this nervous, but I am. I'm going to get myself together now. There was a minister preaching, and he says, if you drink alcohol, you're doomed to die. And a little old lady down front, she said, amen. He says, now if you smoke those cigarettes, you're doomed to die. And the little old lady down front, she said, amen. He says, if you chew tobacco, she says, look at that, he stopped preaching and gone to meddling. Before I start to speak, I want to thank the Al-Anon speaker from yesterday. She was just tremendous, and I didn't get time to thank her, but I personally thank you today. Thank you, baby. It was just gorgeous. Al-Anon is just something else beautiful. Yes. I have to tell you, I ate 2 good meals this week with Al-Anon. Very good. I've enjoyed my meetings there. I'm the oldest of 5 children. I was born in Brooklyn. I was raised in, yes, there goes Brooklyn. And I was raised in Manhattan on 163rd between Amsterdam and Edgecombe. I live right in front of Mother Cabrina Hospital. My dad was a pitiful drunk. I'm not allowed to call anyone an alcoholic but myself. My mom, I've never seen her take a drink in my entire life. And for many, many years, I was wishing I could give her 2 lousy drinks and bring her to hell into this program. Because she could use the whole 12 steps and 12 traditions, believe me. My mom passed away 6 years ago, 3 days short of being 95, so you know she had a beautiful life. My dad, I thank God that I was in AA when he hung himself. I don't believe I could have accepted his death if I had not been in AA. Of course now, my mom made my first drink when I was 12 years old. And as I look back, I was a stone alcoholic at the age of 12 years old. So I don't know anything about social drinking. I don't know about crossing any lines. I've seen a hell of a lot of lines, though. But I don't know about crossing any of them. And my mom made rice wine from the ingredients that she received from the welfare, such as rice and raisins and oranges. And she left myself and a little girl named Marion to sieve this rice wine through cheesecloth. I'm going to show you the difference. Marion sieved and sipped 2 drinks, and she went home. But I sieved and I sipped. And I sieved and I sipped. And I sieved and I sipped. And I'm only 12 years old. And I'm sieving and sipping. And I put on a drunk at 12 that was a drunk. And of course, my mother lectured to me all night. And the next day I had the nerve to snap my little fingers and shake myself and tell my friends what a ball I had, and I don't even remember what the hell happened. And that began to be the pattern of my life. If you didn't drink to get drunk and pass out, you didn't say too much for me. I began to sell King Kong booze at the age of 14. I mean, it was King Kong. It stood you straight and it knocked the hell out of you. And I bought it from the man who made it in the bathtub on the first floor apartment. And I bought it by the gallon. And I sold it for 40 cents a cream pitcher. Now, someone told me to take mayonnaise, olive oil, butter, and cream, line myself up. Well, I'm going to tell you, that King Kong went all through the butter, the olive oil, the cream, and so I stopped taking that sick stuff, and I drank plenty of booze. I made good money. One night, I'm laying out the window, and I see this sharp dude come tipping on down the street. Oh, Lord, I almost fell out the window. He was so sharp. God. And I saw him with a roll of money. And I said, oh, my God, I got a live one. You know, I was always looking for a live one. I look for the live ones in AA, too. I don't look for no deadheads in AA. I'll tell you that right now. No way. No. I look for those live ones. So I went down, running downstairs, and I latched onto this dude. And I found out it was a $5 bill around a lot of ones. But I latched on to him anyway, and I started from uptown Manhattan down to the Lower East Side. On January 3rd, but before I did this, I ran up to my mom one night, and I said, Mom, would you sign for me to marry this man? And she says, oh, no, dear, over my dead body. That man will have you out in the street, and you'll live a terrible life with that man. And I found out something about myself at the age of 14. Don't you ever, but never, tell me what not to do. There's something in my nature when you tell me what I can't do, I'm going to do it if I pay every price for it. I paid a hell of a lot of prices. I thank God today that AA suggested everything to me. Because if it hadn't, I wouldn't be standing here right now, I'll tell you that. So I quit school at 14. I took sleep-in jobs, and I was drunk every Thursday and Sunday when I was off. And I left New York January 3rd, 1939, and I went to Baltimore, Maryland. And I'm standing in front of the minister, and I'm crying my heart out. And he says, my dear young lady, would you mind just telling me what you're crying about? I said, at last I got him. From 14 to 17 was a long time to wait. I'm going to be honest with every one of you in this room this evening. That was the sorriest day of Mr. Bailey's life when he said, I do, to Liz Ulrich. Mr. Bailey never stopped crying from January 3rd, 1939, till he went home with the Lord, August the 12th, 1986. That was a sorry day for that man. I'm telling you. Now, I came back home with the marriage license. No more mama. No more neighbors. Nobody's going to tell me how to live. Whoo! I'm going to paint New York red. Lord have mercy, I was 17. Now, I'm 72. Could you picture what I was at 17? Whoo! Yes, baby. All right. Get with it. Honey, I come back with that marriage license, and my husband gave up every liquor joint. He gave up gambling. He gave up hustling. And he gave up going to parties, and he sat down. And I became a mental case at the age of 17. Because here I am raring to go, and this cat is sitting. And he sat from January 3rd, 1939 till he went home with the Lord, August the 12th, 1986. And I couldn't take that sitting down. I started nursing my little drink through the week. I look forward to weekend drunks. Now I have to have a drink to wash, iron, cook, clean, talk. I had to have a drink. I look forward to weekend drunks. Every weekend I had kegs of beer and bottles of booze. I knew where I was going every weekend. Now I watched a change come over my life. I began to curse. Every word came out of my mouth was a curse word. I watched another change. I began to fight. I began to fight everything and everybody. I watched another change. I began to leave my home from 1 day to 3 weeks at a time. It got to the place when I picked up a drink, I could never tell you what was happening to me behind it. I now began to hit the hospitals, broken fingers. Girls, please do not ever fry a frozen chicken drunk. I hit the grease over and burnt up both of my legs. And the good sisters was tending to these legs while I was drinking. And they would say, Miss Bailey, please stop drinking. There's an alcoholic clinic on a Tuesday. It went in this ear and out that ear. And I would take all my situations and problems to Sutton's Bar and Grill. That's where you could find me at any God-given time. And so I continued to drink. I continued to watch myself go down. I have been beaten to a pulp a couple of good times where I couldn't come out of my home. For weeks at a time, I had been beaten so bad because I'm nasty now. And of course, one morning I woke up so sick and tired, my head was coming off my body. I took Anacins, aspirins, Alka-Seltzer. I put a raw egg in the beer. I did everything to straighten my head out, and I couldn't get it straightened out. I reached over on my night table and I grabbed the Bible. Maybe I could find the answer in the Bible, how to straighten my rotten, filthy life up. Mr. Bailey passed my room and he seen me with the Bible. And he started screaming, "Put that Bible down, you hypocrite. In 20 minutes to an hour, you'll be so drunk you'll be slapping a kid down or hopping a cab." He was right, because the cab drivers used to say, "Please take somebody else's cab." Took me 3 days to clean up my cab behind you. Who the hell does he think he is? I paid 50 cents to get in that cab. Don't tell me who to take. Or I would be swinging the corner. This is the first time I ever thought of suicide. I literally ran and jumped up in the second floor window. And as I went to throw my body down into the yard, there's a little old lady named Nana Backer, and she spots me standing up in this window. And she starts to scream, "Mr. Bailey! Mr. Bailey! You better get her! She's going to jump!" And his head comes out the next window, and I see his hands come out like this, and I'm watching him, see? "Nana, will you let that bitch jump? I'll be rid of all my problems, all my troubles. Let that bitch jump." I continued to drink. And now I'm watching myself being beaten by other people, like I said. And I love bald-headed men. Oh, God, I was crazy about bald-headed men. And I used to play up to them and call them my sugar daddy. And they used to run me out in the cars and roll the windows up and lock me in the cars to keep the wives from killing me. They used to come after me with knives. And when I got to AA and I saw that sign, "But for the grace of God," I said, "Oh, I made it," you know, because I really didn't have to make it with the insanity in the streets of New York. And of course, many, many people pulled me up on the carpet. "Why do you drink the way you do? Why do you act the way you do? You have a beautiful home." I called it a house. Yes, I had every material thing any woman on this earth would want. Mr. Bailey happened to be a furrier, girls. He made fur coats for me like beans. And every time I had a period of dryness, I got a new fur coat. And I had the dryness because it was coming out of my ears, my nose. I just couldn't drink anymore. And I had to lay low whether I wanted to or not. And so one year he made me the most gorgeous leopard coat you ever laid your eyes on. He threw a party for the job, and he brought the coat home, and he threw it out on my bed. And I looked at that leopard coat, and I hated it. I gave it away. I said he made it so he could spot me anywhere. And I was sick. In sobriety, I wished I had that coat many times, believe me. And I continued to drink. But I could rattle off excuses if you ask me why was I drinking. Oh, I could rattle them off, like a mile a minute. My main excuse was loneliness. All my life, I've been looking for someone to love me, to understand me, to do something with me, and I couldn't find it in the streets of New York. But I found a love in AA that surpasses all love, this unconditional love. I thank you for teaching me that. And I thank you for loving me until I could love myself. I didn't know how to love myself. And I continued to drink. And I continued to watch myself go down. I came in from a $2 beer drunk one day. And Mr. Bailey said, look at this, you're drunk again, and you don't have any dinner ready. I said, I've asked you time and again, don't argue with me when I'm drinking. Say as little to me as you possibly can when I'm coming off one. And I said, would you mind seeing me up to the bed? I remember he walked me 3 steps. And when I came to, I was stretched out on a bench. A policeman was sitting at the foot of me. And people were walking around on the ceilings. And blood was all over the front of me. I had a gold coat on, the black slacks set that day. And my front 2 teeth was doing one of these things. And I see this big man standing up in the door doing like this to me. And I went over to him. And please, don't ask me how I could answer his questions, but everything about the president, what day it was, I answered it. So he told Mr. Bailey to take me home. And I said to Mr. Bailey, don't you lay down. Don't you lay down, because I'm going to get you if you lay down for taking me to some Kings County hospital. Well, do you know Mr. Bailey sat up in chairs for 3 nights, girls. He was really afraid to lay down. I don't blame him. I'm crazy. I might have gotten him because I had broke up everything in that apartment. Everything was smashed. I continued to drink. I was always on my knees to Mr. Bailey. Please, please forgive me. I don't want to drink like this. I don't want to act like this. And I meant it when I would be down on my knees. But he was so right. 20 minutes to an hour, I would go off. And he'd say to me, why did you go off? You were doing so well. And I said, well, 3 weeks ago, you said so-and-so to me. And see, and I used that as an excuse to go back out. Mr. Bailey came to me one day, and he said to me, you're the nicest wife when you're sober. Drunk, you're a Jekyll and a Hyde. Why don't you try this AA? When you desire a drink, run over to the phone, pick up the phone, and call someone to talk you out of the drink. I'm not going into the flowery words of what I said to Mr. Bailey, because cursing is my character defect, and I've really tried to clean up my act. I really do. I don't even like it if somebody pushes me to curse today, because if I can't talk to you civil, I really don't deal with you too tough, okay? Thank God for AA cleaning up me in many areas. But you know what I told him to do with AA, though, don't you? Okay, as long as you know. So he walked away from me, and Dr. Graniger had said to him, I want you to go home and tell Mrs. Bailey she's either going to drink herself to death, because you see, back there when I came into AA, there was no detoxes that you have today. There was no halfway homes that you have today. There was nothing back there that you have today. And he told him, he says, you tell her she's going to drink herself to death. She'll drink herself into a mental institution, or she will drink herself into Alcoholics Anonymous. I am so grateful that he told Mr. Bailey to keep his big mouth shut after he told me that. And he did. He kept quiet and he walked away, and he never mentioned AA again. In the meantime, I'm watching me go down. I'm watching me. And the guilt and the remorse, oh God, did I suffer with that. Every time I came up off a drunk someplace else, I died 1,000 deaths, because I had 3 beautiful children, and I thank God the neighbors were there to take care of these children. One of my neighbors pulled me up on the carpet, and she told me she was very much ashamed to live next door to somebody like me. And she says, and what is wrong with you? And I said, Jim Ali, I suffer with my nerves so bad. And Jim Ali suggested that I drink rum. Isn't that nice? I left Jim Ali standing in my little bitty kitchen, and I ran around to the Empire Liquor Store, and I bought a bottle of rum. Will some of you please tell me, I lived in Jamaica, Long Island. I woke up in Bright Cliff, New York with that bottle of rum. How I got to Briarcliff, New York, I still cannot tell anyone. But a beautiful lady took me in off the streets up there into her home. And I became a booze fighter in this lady's home. I didn't really want her to see how I drank. And so I'd wait till she goes to work, and I'd put a shot in my coffee. I'd call it Coffee Royal. And I would hide the bottle. I don't care where I hid it, I found it. And especially if I put it in a drawer, I didn't want it to leak. Jesus, don't leak, you know. And then by the time the lady got home, I'd be irping and purping, and she didn't know what to do for me. And she sat me down by the fire one night, and she said, you know, Liz, you're a lovely person. She said, but drinking is your problem. And she says, I put my husband out of here for his drinking. And she filled me with so much of guilt and remorse that night. And I'm crying because I'm away from my 3 beautiful children. I don't know where I'm at, and I'm fighting the booze. And all of a sudden, I said, I'll sit in the Catholic Church all day, just so I wouldn't touch a drink, that I could probably peel this lady's potatoes and at least get her dinner started because she's so good to me. Well, I did that. I sat in the Catholic Church all day. At 4 o'clock, I walked out of the church. I walked right over into the bar, and I say to the bartender, give me one to relax. Now, I sat in the church all day, but I need a drink to relax. I don't know about you. See? Because I'm going to peel this lady's potatoes. Give me 2 to get started, because I'm going to peel this lady's potatoes. Now, when they gave a 3rd free drink, I would never walk out on a free drink, and don't you dare walk out on a free drink. That's not nice. No. Then I got to buy one back now to look good, because it's important that I look good. And by the time I get to the 4th drink, to hell with her and her potatoes, baby. Let's roll. So you know the lady never got any potatoes, don't you? And so I came back to New York, and for me to get in my house, if I came in nice, you'd see Mr. Bailey throwing me out the front door in brown bags, shopping bags. And now I'm sleeping in unfinished basements. And they're screaming at me, don't drink down there and don't smoke down there. And I'd go and take care of my children in the day and back to these basements at night until finally I got a bright idea one day. If I come in fighting, this cat's going to back up. And I did. I'd charge up a block ahead. And you saw a bull? Yeah, I'd come in like a bull. Now, I'm wrong, but this is the only way now I know how to get back into the house. So I'd come in fighting. And again, I want to die 1,000 deaths. I'm going to tell you about my last drink. I'm drinking with hard, 2-fisted drinkers in the VFW Hall on 110th and Merrick Road. I could never stand anybody who stood there and sipped and nursed a drink. You got on my last nerve. And I did not deal with you at all. Believe me, I didn't. And of course, there was a lady coming to sell some insurance for the house. Mrs. Lindbaum was her name. I hadn't seen Mrs. Lindbaum since I was 8 years old, and I really wanted to see this lady. I got up, and I made salads, and I straightened my house up, and I left the dusting even to last, and the telephone rang. And I could hear the gentleman's voice on the other end. It was a person from the post, and I banged the phone up on him. Because, see, I know me now. I know me. He called back the second time. And I asked him not to bug me because I really wanted to see this lady. And I banged up the second time on him. He called me back the 3rd time. And he says, Liz, do me a favor. Hop the cab, and I'll introduce you to the people, and I'll put you back in the cab, and I'll send you home to your company. I figured, well, let me do that because he's going to run me up a wall today. He's not going to let me stay in here. So I got the cab, and I went over to the post, and the bulls started lining up, and the jukebox is going, and I'm singing, you always hurt the one you love. The one you don't want to hurt at all. Give me another drink. Smile if you're happy. Give me another drink. I could sing them old Weeping Harry songs. As I said, I'm 72 years old, and I haven't seen Miss Lindbaum till yet. I done forgot what the lady even looks like, to tell you the truth. I woke up, I was in one of my son's twin beds. At the foot of this bed stood my mom, and over here stood Mr. Bailey. And my mom is screaming to the rooftops, and her head is going like this. Somebody done something to her. Somebody done something to her. And then I'm looking over at Mr. Bailey. He got his head shaking. And he's saying, no, Mom, nobody's done anything to her. She happens to be a very sick girl. Oh, he didn't call me bitch. You know my name is bitch, don't you? Okay. Oh, he said I was a sick girl. Something went all over my entire body. I can't explain it even till today. I got up out of that bed and I went to the basement of that house. And I stayed in the basement for 2 days praying to die. I wanted out. My oldest son was 12 years old. He was sitting there reading a book the second night. And this is what I said to Richard. Richard, I can't live this way. This is not the way I want to live. Look at this. You can't depend on me for anything. I'm going to go up on the Long Island Railroad. I'm going to jump in front of a train, and I'm just going to end it all. And I started to scream, and oh God, please help me. I have never screamed to God so as I did that night in that basement. And God answered me, just like I'm speaking to you. Try this AA that your father has told me about. I took the telephone book down. I called AA. They did not have anyone at that time to send to me. I got myself together. Intergroup was at 28th Street and Lexington Avenue in Manhattan. I hopped the bus, the subway. I ran a couple of blocks. And when I got to this address, Intergroup was one flight up over a bar. And I said, the hell with AA. And then I said, no, you look at all this you did to get here. Try to get up the stairs again. I got into the middle of the landing, and as I went to turn to go down into the bar, a lady looked down the stairs at me, and she says, are you having trouble? I said, yes, ma'am. And I went running, because I was having trouble getting up the stairs. And I ran up to her, and she escorted me into the front part of the office. And she sat me down, and she started to tell me about her life. Oh, my God, who talks about themselves like this? My mother said put it in a closet, under a rug, open a drawer up and shove it in there. But, geez, don't go out and tell nobody where you got the black eyes, the busted mouths. Don't you dare talk about the fights in your home. And the lady turned to me, and she says, you know, Liz, it's the first drink. I says, oh, come on, sweetie, I've been drinking for 19 years. She said, no, Liz, when you pick up one drink of any type of alcohol, it is only a matter of time that a compulsion sets up into you that you have to go all the way. And I said, she's right. I could take 2 drinks on a Monday. Good. 2 drinks on a Tuesday, you're looking for me. Wednesday, I'd go to Gert's department store. I'd buy a 5th. Boy, I drank that 5th and nothing happened. I done found the brand I can drink. You know I went back there Thursday and got another bottle, don't you? Friday, I'm knitting without needles. Have any of you knitted without needles? But Friday, I'm knitting. And I'm walking up and down. And I've got to go get that drink to get me back in focus. And she said we do it 1 5 minutes, 1 10 minutes, 1 hour, 1 day at a time. And we do it with meetings, and we do it with a sponsor. And I tell you today, please, out of 2.5 million of us, don't you ever tell Liz Bailey you can't find a sponsor in one of these rooms. I'm telling you. Don't tell me. There's got to be somebody good for you out there, baby. Believe me. And she told me 2 meetings to go to. Now, I don't know about you girls, but my hair used to stay drunk. And every time my beautician would fix me, she'd say, Miss Bailey, did you just get out of my chair? And I'd curse her out, and she'd begin to leave me alone. And Mr. Bailey would give me money for clothes, but I never could find the clothes, so I'd drink up the money. So I'm going to my first AA meeting now, and I really want you to hear this. I get my hair done beautiful, I buy a 2-piece blue suit, and I go off to the first meeting. And as I walk into the meeting, there's 2 girls behind the coffee counter. I'm only mimicking them. I'm not making fun of them. And they looked up at me and said, you don't look like an alcoholic. I said, what the hell did I get myself into? Let me get the hell out of here. And I started running out of the room as fast as I could get out the room. And they kept 2 people at the door when I came into AA. And one of them slapped me over here on the shoulder, and he says to me, what's the matter with you? Where are you going? I said, those girls said I don't look like an alcoholic. I don't know what an alcoholic looks like. You know my company never talked like that. If I came to visit you, you didn't say good morning. You say, what we drinking? What we chipping in? You know, I was the road runner. I'd run for it. Drop groceries, kids, and all, and I'd be gone. So he says to me, I said, but he said, what's the matter with you? Where are you going? I said, they say I don't look like an alcoholic. I don't know what an alcoholic looks like. I'm about to lose my mind, my home, my children, everything through drinking. He said, have a seat, sweetie. You in the right place. And they put 2 tables together that night, and each one of the members sat around and they shared their strength, their hope, and their experience with me. It's but for the grace of God, Alcoholics Anonymous, Al-Anon, Alateen, Alatot, OAGA, PA, NA, EA, FA. The only A I haven't spoken to was in Seattle, Washington, on Sex Anonymous. I refuse to go put my sex life on tape to go across the United States, okay? Because I got a family out there yet. I came into AA July the 11th, 1952, and I just celebrated 41 years away from my last one. Praise God. Praise God. Yes. Thank you. And it's all like they say, we can do together what I could never do alone. I did not come this far by myself. Beautiful people like Leonard and all of you mean so much to me. And I love young people. I don't do anything with senior citizens yet. I'm not going to die for that 50-cent lunch. I'm sorry, darling. See, I deal with the young people because you're our next legacy. I want the young people to stay here. Yes. 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 You are. Now, they told me not to get sober for anybody but for myself. I didn't understand that. They said, don't do it for your mother. Because if I had to stay sober for my mother, I'd have been drunk. My mother did not like me telling you I was an alcoholic. It took my mother 29 and a half years of my sobriety to tell me to stay with them A's, whatever they are. See, I don't plan to leave these A's. Mr. Bailey couldn't stand me sober. He couldn't take the new me. He worked overtime for 10 years to get me back in the streets of New York. But you didn't tell me to stay sober for Mr. Bailey. You told me to stay sober for Liz. 31 years ago, I had the honor and privilege of speaking for our late co-founder, Bill Wilson, at the Hotel Commodore that night to 2,700 people. And when I arrived back at the house, remember, I never called this a home. And I arrived back at the house, and he banged every pot on the stove, and he screamed that he had to get rid of me, that he couldn't stand me and this sobriety another minute. Well, I used the 3rd and the 11th step at 3 o'clock one morning, because no man makes decisions for each other in the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. And God spoke to me like I'm speaking to you. If you pick up one drink, Liz, you don't have Liz. If you pick up one drink, Liz, you don't have Mr. Bailey, and I didn't have him anyway. And if you pick up one drink, Liz, you're not in this house. So I left Mr. Bailey sitting in a $60,000 house at that time, and I moved to a room and kitchenette, and then to an apartment. I went back 7 years ago and took care of Mr. Bailey in his last days, for the fact that I've stood on these platforms for so many years telling you how I loved that man. And the more I got sober, the more I loved him all the more, because he kept the house together. He sent 3 children to college. He kept everything together while I was in the streets of New York. And I do honestly tell you, I loved him so dearly that it was a privilege to go back and take care of him and make him happy in his last days. And he said to me, "Why are you doing this, and how can you do this?" I said, "With love. Anything you want to do right, do it with love." And so again, Mr. Bailey asked me to take his hand. And I took his hand in Sloan's Kettering Hospital, and he says, "Liz, I really love you." And I screamed. I said, "Girls, it took me 47 years to hear that, but I got it. Ain't that something? I got it. Yep, I got it." And another nice part I want to tell you, I'm back in my home today, and it's paid for. Isn't that nice? I was out of that home for 24 years, and he brought me back into it. My purpose here, too, is to stay sober and help others to achieve this beautiful program. And not only that, don't ever give up. Don't ever give up, because there is the miracle that's next. And my oldest son has hated me all my sobriety, and he let me know, "I'll never forgive you or forget you." But I came into AA and learned how to forgive myself for my past. I was ignorant as far as alcohol and alcoholism. Nobody was talking the stuff that you hear today. Nobody talked about alcoholism 41 years, 2 years ago, or when I was in the streets. I didn't hear that. And so February the 14th of this year, I had a phone call. "Hello, Mom." I said, "Who's this?" "Oh, you don't know your only son?" No, I hadn't heard from him in years, 5 times in 41 years. How would I know his voice? I have other sons in AA. I've got plenty of sons in AA. But here again, I started to cry. And he said, "Would you hang up?" Because he lives in Los Angeles. He said, "Would you hang up, and I'll give you a half hour to get yourself together." This is the first Mother's Day in 41 years that I have my son say Happy Mother's Day. And I praise God that I've stayed sober to receive that gift. I called him for Father's Day to wish him a happy Father's Day. He says, "Mom, I'm just coming in from church." And I almost fell off the chair, because he told my grandchildren, "Don't listen to your nanny and her spiritual stuff." And my grandchildren said, "My nanny don't bother us with any spiritual stuff." You see, AA is so beautiful. It tells you attract, you don't promote. And I'm through raising children. I don't raise anybody's children. I have 12 grandchildren that I see by appointment only. And I mean that. And I've also lived now to see 2 great-grandchildren that I never dreamt that I would see. Gorgeous children. I thank God that Richard is talking to me now, and that he's doing okay. And he's in the background screaming, "I love you, Mom. I love you, Mom." And it's a privilege to have stayed sober to hear that. I have a daughter that I stopped drinking when she was 5 years old. I praise my God every day that she doesn't remember me as an active alcoholic, because she would use my drinking to hurt herself. She's just that type. She's had 5 mental breakdowns. And I have to bring this out whether you like it or not. My alcoholism is a family disease, because everyone in my family was affected by my disease, my active disease, and I have to recognize that. Judy is out of her 5th mental breakdown now, and she's doing beautiful, praise God. I have a beautiful AA baby. She's 37 years old, and she turned to be a Muslim about 18 years ago, and she wears the shroud and she covers her beautiful face. I had a black hat on, a black coat, and we went into the AMP, and the cashier says, "Oh, it's a stick-up, it's a stick-up." I got hysterical, and I went to the floor of the AMP. So coming back on the subway, she says to me, "Mother, are you accepting me as a Muslim?" I said, "You join Buddhism, I don't care whose ism, as long as it helps you be a better person." And I don't, like I said, I'm not raising children anymore. She's had 12 babies. She's got 6 left. And she's doing beautiful today, praise God. I had a son I want to talk about because I want the young people to really hear what I'm saying. Dennis, my second son, who would have been 51 this June past, I used to say to him, Dennis, the right road may be hard, but you'll be the winner. The easy road, the price is heavy. And Dennis chose the easy road, and he was shot and killed 23 years ago at 2 o'clock in the morning. I don't cry about Dennis because I don't believe in crying about the dead. That's for me now. This is my opinion, not yours. Because it tells me, let not your heart be troubled. In my Father's house there are many mansions. And I've always believed that my son will be there to open the gate for me when I go to join him. Again, I thank God that you told me to stay sober for myself, and I'll ask you not to put any conditions onto your sobriety. Will help someone find their way to this beautiful fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. My first 5 years in AA were the hardest years of my entire life. I didn't talk about a God when I got here. I didn't want you to mention God to me. I'd lay your soul to rest. Because here I got sober and all hell is breaking loose. And I don't understand this hell. Mother fighting me, son fighting me, husband fighting me, neighbors out in the street shaking themselves saying any day now she'll take off. And yet and still when I was drinking, they all crucified me. And here I got sober and I was going through that same crucifixion. And I didn't get sober for them people. I got sober for Liz. And I made 7 meetings a week and 3 times on Sunday. And if some of you here in Hawaii knows, I've been making meetings every day, twice a day since I've been here in Hawaii. I stay very close to meetings, especially if I'm going through anything or growing through anything. At the end of 5 years, after having migraine headaches, deep, deep depressions, because I'm not talking about a God now, and I'm living in this fantasy world, wishing and hoping and desiring that everything is going to be my way. I don't even play Sinatra's song, I had it my way. Because my way has never been any good. Still isn't. And after I cried a lot, and I mean I cried a lot the first 5 years, and it dawned on me that sobriety is a gift. And if I want to keep this gift, I better let a higher power, whom I choose to call God, come into my life. And the theme of this convention, thank God, is so true. It took me time. I slowly began to grow in this program. I couldn't take the steps when I first got here. I wanted to take the steps, but I was so sick from 19 years in the streets of New York. I couldn't hold 2 thoughts together. I couldn't hold a cup of coffee, and I had to get B12 shots every other day, and I was taught how to take honey also. And so I started to grow spiritually after I let God come into my life. I got hungry for the word and the truth. I started to go in and out of prayer meetings, in and out of churches. I found myself with my hands up like this all the time, and I got some dirty looks too for that. And then finally, about 16 years ago, I found a church that I could put my hands up to praise God if I chose. And I've been there ever since, into that church. But AA taught me AA in home, AA in your job, AA in socializing, and AA and religion if you cared to go back to religion. But watch religion, because sometimes religion wants to pull you out of AA. And they'll tell you they'll give you the love. They'll give you the love, but they won't have an understanding of one drunk to another. They don't have it. Okay? That's true. That's true. And of course, I watched myself go through all these operations, cut open and close back. I went up and had 3 operations in 6 weeks, and the doctor says, you have cancer. He says, and I'll give you now another 6 months to live. I said, please don't talk to me that way. I'm in a fellowship that teaches me, and praise God if you can get into the 24-hour concept, that I live one day at a time. In our Lord's Prayer, it says, give us this day. Didn't tell me give me next week, you know. And I learned that life is full of yesterdays and no tomorrows. My life is right now. What I'm doing right now is the most important thing to me. And I'm now 26 years an arrested cancer patient, and you can see my motor's running fine. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. AA is healing, baby. Oh, yeah. We're miracles. We're miracles. Because I lost a father, a son. My sister went into Manhattan and jumped 30 floors. I lost a nephew shot and killed. I had a cousin who was so intellect, he was too smart for us. He didn't need us. Somebody beat him to death about a year ago up in Connecticut. See? And I love when Dr. Bob asked us to please keep it simple. Don't louse up this fellowship with your intellect. I hear you want to rewrite the big book. I hear you want to take the Lord's Prayer out. All of this has been working for 58 years. Who the hell do you think you are? 58 years. I'm telling you. What they tell us, if it's working, don't fix it. That's right, it works. I had a girl tell me I better learn to grow through the changes. Some of these changes I don't like, and I've had to grow through a lot of changes. I almost 8 years ago wanted to run away from AA. The changes were so hard on me. We learned to respect speakers when I came into AA. You went to the lavatory. You did all your talking before. When a speaker got up here to speak, you could hear cotton drop. Not today. You're up and down, and you're in, and you're out, and you're up. And I missed a lot that the speakers say. And you kill the spirituality also. This is a spiritual program. Not a religion, a spiritual. And what is spiritual? Truth. We speak truth. I love children. I have 4 of my own. I told you I have 12 grandchildren. I've taken my grandchildren to meetings with me. But I make sure I tell them before they walk in the meeting, don't you open your mouth in there, because I'll bash you right in it. And today, you know, you get locked up for child abuse, so I'll be locked up. Don't be surprised, okay? And my grandson, little 4-year-old, he says, Nanny, I talked tonight, but I talked like this. 4 years old. He sat 2 hours to hear me speak at a group's anniversary in Mount Vernon. And they'll tell you, I had them clap that 4-year-old. He sat there in that chair for the 2 hours with his mouth shut. And we should teach our children how to respect others. It starts in the home. Starts in the home. Starts in the home. I came to believe there was a power greater than myself that could restore me to sanity. I had no trouble with the first step. I knew my life was unmanageable. I've always been grateful that I've lived in the day and time of Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm the only one out of my mother's 5 children that has ever gotten sober. And I learned that if I wanted to stay sober, I had better change my thinking and my actions. I had to work on myself. I made a decision, as I told you before, after 5 years of AA, to turn my life and my will over to the care of a God of my understanding. And I love that about AA. AA doesn't push no God on anybody. They tell you to find your own personal God. And my greatest awakening today, if I die the next 5 minutes, was to learn that greater is He that is in me than he that is in the world. And today I can talk to my Father anytime, any place, anywhere I choose. And I do a lot of talking up in that air. Believe me, I do. Oh, Lord. I'm up there in the clouds telling him, let us get on the ground safe. Let us go up safe. And he does. He's been traveling me around now for many, many years. Many years. I've had to take my inventory many times. Write down all my lust and anger and all that. And then on the other side, write nice things down about myself. Even in the throes of my disease, I was not all bad, not at all. I humbly asked him to help me with my shortcomings. I humbly asked him to help me with my character defects. Today, I can tell you something, as Leonard introduced me so nicely, today I do stand tall with dignity of a woman, and a sober mother is so important, and a sober father is so important. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes. And of course, now I've made amends to myself. If I don't love me, I can't love you. If I don't get it from me, I can't give it to you. They say to me, "What are you doing at this meeting, Liz?" I'm an alcoholic. Why I'm here? Why you ask me that? "Oh, you go to meetings?" I go to meetings to keep what I have. I learn from the good and the bad in this fellowship. And most all that go back out drinking, did you talk to God today? No. Did you make a meeting? No. Two dangerous things right there. Because if you talk to your higher power, you will not pick up a drink. Because it's like footprints in the sand. He'll carry you whether you know it or not. He'll do for you what you can't do for yourself. I'm a living proof of that. A living proof. And again, I made amends to my loved ones, thank God. I made amends to my neighbors. They were so glad I stopped drinking. They kissed me all up in the head and everywhere else, you know. They're so happy. And you know, I never had a car in my whole sobriety. And every night a different white dude picks me up. And you know, we got that instant love. And my neighbor says, "Oh my God, from a drunk to this, what is she putting down? What is she putting down?" See, and I remember the time I didn't know what I was putting down. But today I know what I'm putting down. That's a blessing right there. Okay. One of my friends came out from work with a pocket full of money. And the guy said to him, "Stick 'em up." He said, "Man, don't you see I got a disease?" And the guy ran from him. He said, "Liz, he didn't even give me a chance to tell him I'm an alcoholic." I love that one. I love that one. Yeah. The only amends I have not made is to my bartender. I sent his children to college. I did. I bought that dude a new Cadillac every year. I used to watch him, just sit there in the bar and watch these new Cadillacs go up and down. I just want to take one of you to Vermont and show you the house I bought him. It would injure me to give him the $2. And you know, the place closed down when I stopped drinking. Hasn't been there in 41 years. It's an athletic club. So I always ask the drug addicts, look what you're doing. You're putting gold teeth in people's head. You're buying them $275 sneakers. You got them driving up and down in BMWs, and you dying. And I've seen you come into AA with absolutely nothing, and I've seen you become millionaires. I even went back to school after having been in school for 44 years. I graduated from New York Visiting Nursing June 4th, 1979 with an 88 average. Yes. You can take sobriety and make it pay off. Don't be just sober. Please don't do that. Don't do that. Make your sobriety pay off. Go in and out of the detox units. Speak to people. Put your hand out and keep this love going. This love, I have covered many a convention, but I've never covered one like this. Woo! Jeez. And you know, Marion, I'm glad I didn't get here years ago. I might not have could handle it, because I'm just about handling it now. I'll tell you the truth. God has the plan. God has the plan. I'm here because I'm supposed to be here now. And that's how it is. Again, when I'm wrong, I promptly admit it. And when I'm right, I shut up. I don't try to prove myself to anybody, because you can keep yourself emotionally sick like that. I came in here mentally sick and physically sick and highly emotional and highly sensitive, because you were always talking about me. You were always watching me. Those were things I knew, but I didn't know anything else about me. And how did I learn about me? Through going to meetings, and listening to you and identifying with you, not comparing with you, because when I came into AA, they were really Bowery people that had come into AA, and mostly men. There were very few women. I'm so happy today to see the women come in, and especially the younger women. And today, I must share this with you. I just finished speaking in Bakersfield, California, and a young lady left a message for me last night. And I'm telling you this because I want all of you, and there's a power of prayer in this room tonight, because this young lady called me last night. I wasn't in my room, but at 4:15 when I got up to go to the lavatory this morning, there was a note under my door from the hotel telling me I had a message. And at 7, a little after 7 maybe, this young lady called, and she asked me to help her. I asked her to meet me at 1 o'clock in the lobby of this hotel, and she did. And Sandy, I want you to pray for Sandy. She's in the back here now. The girls are taking care of her while I could do this tonight and get an hour rest today. But Sandy wants help, and she don't know she will get that help by exposing herself to this beautiful convention. They tell me she's in the back of the room, and the 2 girls are telling me she's coming out of it real good. She ate good for me and all today. So see, God even had me 12-stepping in Hawaii. 12-stepping in Hawaii. Because when she called AA, they told her to go to the convention. And she says, Liz said she'd be in Hawaii doing the hula. And she thought about it, and she called the hotel, and that's how I got the message. So we can 12-step anywhere we go, can't we? And help one another. Al-Anon, keep Al-Anon going. Don't leave Al-Anon because your mates or your loved ones get sober. You need it in Al-Anon. I send so many people. I've been an Al-Anon member for 38 years. Lois and I used to speak together. And the last time Lois and I spoke together was in Sing Sing, and we had dinner together. That's the last time Lois and I were together. But I love Al-Anon. You've helped me personally so much how to mind my own business. Oh, I love that. MYOB. I love it. I use it every day of my life. I have to. And of course, you told me that I can't cure anybody, and that's so true. I used to worry when the drunks went back to drinking, and a guy said to me one day, he says, Liz, I've never lost a 12-step call. I said, oh my God, man, what do you say to them? He said, I come out sober. Think about it. Think about it. You'll never lose a 12-step call. You come out sober. After I've had a spiritual awakening as a result of these 12 steps I've just taken you down with my life, I try to carry a message. I don't tell anybody I carry a message. It's a language of the heart. Please don't write your message on a piece of paper. Because years ago when I seen speakers get up here reading their speech, they killed the spirit and they went and got drunk. So we don't write speeches here. We speak from the heart. And that's what it is, the language of the heart. And God will put the words in your mouth. I didn't plan anything here to say tonight. Whatever He's allowed me to say, I've done it. And don't come up to me after this meeting and say, you left this out and you left that out. Take it up with your higher power, because He didn't give it to me. He didn't give it to me. Take it up with Him. Again, I want to thank the committee, Leonard and Bob. Bob, you've been beautiful to me this weekend. I lost my cup. Okay. Bob gave me a nice cup, and I left it in the Al-Anon room today. But God will give me another one. He's good. He's good like that. He's good like that. Please keep humor in your life. I could have never stayed sober 41 years unhappy. I told him a joke here at the dinner table, and I thank everyone that had dinner with me tonight even, that I was going on a plane to Vermont to speak, and the man said to me that was with me, he said, you don't eat before you speak? I said, oh no. I'd rather go to bed then or sit down somewhere. The words wouldn't even come out of me if I ate tonight. And so He says, "Oh, you remind me of the priest." I said, "I do." "Father, you're not going to eat those mashed potatoes and roast beef?" Father said, "No, I don't do a good job." Father got up and spoke and came back and sat down. He said, "How'd I do?" He says, "I think you should have ate." I hope you don't tell me that. But I don't really eat before. I thank God for everyone. Thank God for Hawaii. I hope to look forward to be back with you again. Marion, thank you for being in my life. And thank you for all the love and the gifts that you've sent me. And again, Tony and Curtis is a new family for me in Hawaii. And I will be back with the grace of God. Love you. Love each and every one of you. Continue to have a beautiful evening. And let God go your way. I would be amiss if I did not close this meeting the way I usually close a meeting. I usually tell you I have a primary purpose in life, and that is to stay sober, and it's nice when you find a primary purpose in your life. And I usually tell you that if I have reached just one person in here, my daughter says, "Oh, there she goes to save the world." No, I'm not looking to save the world. I personally just want to touch one person in this audience tonight. Then you have shown me that I have not lived in vain. Thank you so much.